Oh yeah, let's go. Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching this or listening to this from. Hope you're having a great day. Another great day, another amazing fucking day of this NFL offseason moves that are happening. The craziest offseason that I've seen in a while. I think all of you would agree with that. And with that, we have a lot more to talk about today. So, everybody, welcome to the first YouTube podcast, Sports 24/7 with Steve and Evan. I'm flying solo today. My name's Evan. I'm usually with my partner Steve, but my partner Steve won't be here with us for a while. I'm not going to get into that, what he's going through. I don't know if he wants that to be talked about. If he does, then I will have him, talk to you guys about it, or whoever he wants to know about it. Any messages that he has to get out about it. The only thing I want to do right now is take a minute and commend my friend Steve for doing something very courageous, something that a lot of people will not step up and do in their lifetime, and he's doing one of those things. So, Steve, stay in there, man. We're all with you. You have a huge support system. You already know that. We can't wait to have you back. That's for sure. Obviously, if you're going to watch this, Steve, or listen to this, I'm going to distribute this on different platforms. YouTube being one of them in video form. This is our first video podcast. And I get to edit this video afterwards, so it's going to be fun. I always love editing videos for the channel before, but now it's going to be podcasts. This is what it's going to be. A lot of moves going on in the NFL offseason, a lot of stuff to talk about, and we're going to get into that right now. But first, as always, as before, as now, as it always will be, I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys for clicking play. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank everybody who's supporting the channel, who's supporting the podcast. Anybody that clicks a like, comments, gives us feedback, or shares, especially shares, man. We all know to support any of your friends' businesses, your friends' podcast, anything. Sharing is the best thing you could do. Getting the word out is the most important thing that you can do. So thank you guys. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for all that. With that being said, I also want to thank Razor Sharp Martial Arts in Alsip, Illinois, and Patrick Pendleton DDS in Western Springs, Illinois, for sponsoring these YouTube videos, this podcast, and going forward. So, the NFL offseason has been fucking insane. We talked about it on a podcast before. It just was not in video form. It wasn't on YouTube. So, if you guys haven't, we are on Spotify, Sports 24/7 with Steve and Evan. We have talked about the moves that were made last week, the week before, everything happening. Tom Brady came out of retirement. Aaron Rodgers re-signed with the Packers. We got into all that. We got into Devontae Adams last week. So those won't be talked about here. It's just going to be the most recent ones, which there's still a lot going on here. I'll get into what happened, some rumors that I think may come true. As always, we give our thoughts, our predictions, our shit talking, our what the fucks. We get into everything. So with that, I'm going to start with the biggest headliner that there is. And the biggest headliner that there is so far is the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you guys see what the Kansas City Chiefs are doing? Kansas City Chiefs, I'll recap just one move last week. They go and sign Juju Smith-Schuster. A huge addition to the offense. Makes it an even more explosive offense than it already was. And now, once again, the Chiefs are making headlines because they go and they trade Tyreek Hill to the Miami Dolphins of all people. Now, we'll get into what they got for Tyreek Hill in just 1 second. I just want to say that initially, when I read that trade headline, I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck are you guys doing? Tyreek Hill is one of, if not the biggest part of your offense. I'll say one of. Patrick Mahomes is the biggest part of your offense. But you go and trade him away. That was my initial reaction. Just what the fuck. Then, after sitting on it for another minute, an hour maybe, and thinking about it more in depth, that was the smartest move that the Kansas City Chiefs can make. Why was that the smartest move that the Kansas City Chiefs can make? One, because they got a shit ton for him. The Kansas City Chiefs got more for Tyreek Hill than the Green Bay Packers did for Devontae Adams. Now, I know that was a different situation, but Kansas City came away with 5, yes, I say 5 draft picks for Tyreek Hill. 4 of them, I believe, is this year's draft, 2022. 1, a 2023 draft pick. 2 of the 2022 draft picks are 4th rounders, I believe. And then I believe they got a 2nd rounder and 3rd rounder, if I'm not mistaken. Or a 1st rounder and 2nd rounder. One of the two. But they got a lot for him. Why I say this is the smartest move that the Kansas City Chiefs could have made is because you didn't damage your team to the degree that people think that you did. Oh my God, they traded away Tyreek Hill. They're not going to be the same. Yes, they are. Hear me out here. Your whole offense in Kansas City, if anybody's ever been paying attention, was who? It was Tyreek Hill, and it was also Travis Kelce. Now, Travis Kelce is older. Tyreek Hill was on the younger side between those two players. So why would you not somehow try to give up Travis Kelce there then? That's because, in my opinion, tight ends in the game now are used as receivers. And tight ends as receivers are scarce. They're kind of like running backs now. So you're not going to give that up, especially somebody who's established in the league like that, like Travis Kelce. Especially last year when the Chiefs played the Bills. I forget. I think it was the last quarter. I think there was 13 seconds left in the last quarter. I think it was the 3rd and 13. And me and my girl were watching the game, and I pointed exactly to Travis Kelce. And I said, 3rd and 13, the ball's going to him. Watch him. And what do you know? Sure as shit, the ball gets thrown to Travis Kelce on a 3rd and 13 with 13 seconds left in the game with Buffalo winning. And Travis Kelce gets the fucking first down. That's why he's, 1, a main part of their offense, and 2, and that's why you would keep him around. Now, these draft picks that they got for Tyreek Hill was a smart move to me because you go and sign Juju, so that's not that's like a half replacement to me on of Tyreek Hill. Juju's not as good as Tyreek Hill. I'll say that right now, but he is a good receiver. We've seen that. He's proven himself as long as he's not dancing on logos and doing dumbass TikTok dances, which he still does. So we'll see how that plays out in Kansas City. But Juju is a very good pickup. I don't remember what they signed him for, so I don't know what he's getting out of the deal money-wise or how much they have to spend or whatnot. But clearly they have some money to spend now that they traded away Tyreek Hill. With those draft picks, though, what I'm getting at is that the Chiefs can make a lot of offensive moves, a lot of defensive moves. They can do whatever the fuck they want to do with those draft picks. And that is why I say they've made the smartest trade, smartest decision that they can make. Because now they have options. Options are always a good thing, no matter what. No matter in life and sports, options are always a good thing. They give you freedom. And that's what the Chiefs have. And the Chiefs, not only do they have options and freedom, but they have it while maintaining a really solid offense with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Juju Smith-Schuster. Even though Juju has to adjust to the playbook and all that good stuff. I mean, they still have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I still believe. And while we're on the Chiefs go ahead and sign Ronald Jones Jr., the Bucs running back or backup running back, which we've seen what Ronald Jones Jr. can do in Tampa when he took over while Leonard Fournette was hurt, or when they didn't have Leonard Fournette in the beginning, I think. And he showed up. So we already know what he can do. Do I think he'll take over as running back 1? No, he's already familiar from Tampa Bay with a running back 2 role. And so that's what I think he's going to stick to, and he's going to shine there. So Kansas City has a good running back committee going. And you have I believe the highest paid quarterback in the league. I mean, they tagged him, they signed him, they said, "You're our franchise quarterback. We want you to be the face of the Kansas City Chiefs." $500 million contract. Or almost $500 million. Absolutely insane. So you already know you're sticking with Patrick Mahomes. You got Patrick Mahomes. You know, you got him a replacement weapon. And you still have his old familiar weapon, old reliable, Travis Kelce. And now you have draft picks to play with. You can go out and get new receivers, mold them, build the chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes already being a great quarterback with physical and great athletic abilities, that he can take a rookie who is good but hasn't been introduced to the league yet, obviously, and he can make them look great. Now, with those draft picks, you could split it up. You could focus on all defense. You could focus on all offense and make your offense explosive, because that's what the Kansas City Chiefs have done. They rely on an explosive offense. Why I say that is because the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been just been It's been up, it's been down. It's had really good games. It's had games where they've given up a shit ton of points. And that's a problem, but it's not that big of an issue for the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Because they have such an explosive offense that they can still put up the points that they need and win the games. Prime examples of this are, go back to any of their previous games. There's been games where they put up 35 points, 30 plus points, whatever, but they also give up 28 and they still win. Giving up 28 points should probably lose you a game, in my opinion. But it doesn't, because you're the Kansas City Chiefs, and if you need further proof of that, or further examples of that, is the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where, yes, they lost, but the Buccaneers were pressuring Patrick Mahomes all game, and this guy was spinning, rolling out of the pocket, throwing up Hail Marys while he's spinning, and they were still dimes. The receivers just didn't come down with them. So that one, now if the receivers come down with those balls, it could be a whole different game. They could have been winning. They could have possibly won the Super Bowl, because most of those were clutch, either catches, first downs, or touchdowns even. There was a couple in the end zone, I believe. So the Kansas City definitely, you already know their game plan. They focus on an offense. They think offense can outpace a defense. And so far, it's been working for them. So, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think they came to grips with, yes, he's not that old, but we can get a lot for Tyreek Hill right now and still be okay. And they went out and they made the signings that I guess they felt they needed in Juju and in Ronald Jones, and also Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And they thought that we'll be okay without him there, and then we'll get some in those draft picks. And they did it. Genius, absolute genius move, in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out for them and who they draft with those picks, but absolutely genius. And now going to the last name that I just said that they signed, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, that really fucks over the Green Bay Packers. And I wish my partner Steve was here with me, but we were just talking about him, and Steve was saying they'll probably re-sign him. And the Packers also lost, I believe his name is Ladarius Smith, I think. And those are two big losses for the Green Bay Packers. So right now, the Packers, they lose those two. They lost Devontae Adams. The only thing they gained from this was re-signing the two-time MVP Aaron Rodgers. Or back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers. He's not just a two-time. But man, I feel bad for the Packers and Packers fans. So, I'm sorry, Steve, but I feel like your team's going downhill. Now, sip time. With that said, the Green Bay Packers, like the Chiefs with their draft picks, still have options. Options out there. There's still a lot of good free agents out there. And so, within these coming weeks, I'm going to be posting these podcasts every Saturday. Depends on how the free agency goes. There will be a podcast every Saturday. I might talk about fights, though. Or if it keeps going crazy like it is now, like free agency mania and trade mania, then I'm going to be talking about NFL moves and football moves, because, like I said, this is a jam-packed offseason of moves. We got a lot of shifts of a lot of big names out there. And it's absolutely crazy what's going on. With that in mind, the Green Bay Packers, they need something. You got Aaron Rodgers, and like I said, I wish Steve was here to talk about this. He knows a hell of a lot more about the Packers than I do. But what I do know is Aaron Rodgers is great. They re-signed Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers has not dealt with, from my knowledge, a bad receiving core. Throughout the years, he has impressed me because all he really has had recent years was Devontae Adams, but now he's gone. Your number one receiver is gone. The best receiver in the league, arguably, is off your team. He's with the Raiders now, and that's not a pretty picture for him, in my opinion, with Derek Carr, but that's another story. That's another topic. We're talking about the Packers getting Aaron Rodgers weapons. Aaron Rodgers, there's still weapons out there for him. We will see how this offseason plays out, but assuming that the Packers make little to zero moves for Aaron Rodgers, let's say they focus on defense or something else, it does help the Packers. But then this upcoming season, if you don't get Aaron Rodgers weapons, then this is a test for Aaron Rodgers. This is them saying, okay, you're back-to-back MVP. Let's see how good are you. Can you be Tom Brady-esque and make average receivers look good? Can you pull it off? Can you make mediocre receivers look like Pro Bowl receivers? That is the question that will be going into this season if the Packers do not get Aaron Rodgers any weapons. And Aaron Rodgers, there's still weapons for him to use out there. Big names still in free agency, still in the pool, still swimming looking for a team. Julio Jones, I know this is not a name that I would touch personally, but he's probably the biggest offensive name out there still. Maybe besides Melvin Gordon, but that's running back. That's a different position. I'm talking about wide receivers right now. Julio Jones is obviously a big name, but his numbers have not been there throughout recent years. And also, what has been there is injuries. Hamstring injuries do not go away, people. Julio Jones is proof of that. They just linger. Unless he's absolutely doing like nothing for recovery and just ignoring these injuries. Julio Jones basically plays like a third, maybe a little bit more than a third of a season. I would say on average because of injuries. And no, those numbers aren't solid, so don't fact check me on that. I'm just going to go out there and talk my shit about Julio Jones. Julio Jones is done. He is washed up. At best, he will be a really good wide receiver 2 or 3. He is not the wide receiver number 1 anymore. Yes, he still is talented, but he is too injury prone that I would not touch his name. And my guess, at this stage in his career, he's looking for somewhat of a payday, whether that be a 1-year contract or whatever. I doubt he's going to get more than a 1-year contract because his track record with injuries hasn't justified anything more than that. And I don't think it's justified any more money for him. But who knows? Maybe he turns it around. Maybe he comes to a team, turns it around, and has a stellar year. But even that would scare me because then you go and re-sign him for a few more years. You extend his contract, and then he just gets hurt again. And yeah, it's like players playing for their contract years, basically. They do good that year, but once they get the extension or once they're signed, they tend to get injured or fall off a little bit in production. But Julio Jones is still out there. That would be interesting for the Packers. Jarvis Landry is a name that I like for the Packers, just because we've seen what he can do when he was in Miami with Devontae Parker, I believe. And I believe that on the Browns, he was overshadowed by Odell Beckham Jr. Speaking of Odell Beckham Jr., I believe Odell Beckham Jr. is a free agent still. I believe he is. And that would be an interesting pickup because maybe you can get him for cheap. I believe you can get Julio Jones for a little bit cheap because of the whole injury prone thing. And he would have to, prove himself. But I think you can get Odell Beckham Jr. cheap also, or cheaper, maybe than what he's asking because he did just win a Super Bowl. He did play that game. He caught the first touchdown of that game. So maybe he'll probably try to use that as leverage to get more money. But he also did tweak his knee in that game. Just coming off the year prior a torn ACL injury. So, I mean, that's still a very iffy topic. He can easily tweak it again and be out for a season, and this could easily be an injury-prone Odell Beckham Jr. with knee tweaks and whatnot throughout the years to come. That would be interesting to see him go somewhere, but another notable name out there to me, Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders is a free agent also. Emmanuel Sanders stepped up on some games for Buffalo this past year, and he had some really good games. I don't know. I don't know what Emmanuel Sanders can become or can be even for a year, given the chance. The chances maybe like a wide receiver one, maybe. Who knows? I believe maybe he still has some stuff in him. Other than that, I mean Cole Beasley, yes, he's not no wide receiver one really or anything like that, but he is a reliable name in my opinion. He's a clear go-to guy, maybe like a check down guy or something like that. More of a safety blanket for Aaron Rodgers than anything. Other than that, the names that I see on here don't really stand out. It is defensive names, so if they wanted to go to defense for the Packers or for any team, honestly, but I would just say the Packers if they're gearing towards that for some odd reason. Tyrann Mathieu is still out there. Stephon Gilmore, Hakeem Nicks, Jason Pierre-Paul. I know Jason Pierre-Paul is like past his time, but these are just big names that are out there, and you can definitely, probably do something with some of these names. You know, you never know with the right group of guys, even if they are a bit on the older side of or tail end of their careers or older or whatever, they could always have something to offer a locker room. They could always have something to offer a team, whether it be just being a veteran, helping younger players, or if you form enough veterans, I think they could maybe form a squad. I mean, Patrick Peterson is out there too. You have a good amount of names out there on defense. I think offense is more scarce right now than defense. But the one name that I don't even see on this list, to be honest with you, I think it would be on the top end of the list. Let me double check for you guys really quick. I mean, the top of the list comes Julio Jones. There's another name, receiver out there, Will Fuller. Could be a good pickup. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Could be a good pickup. We seen what he did in Houston, but also what we seen was that dude was taking PEDs. Now off the PEDs, you got injured, you weren't as good. I don't think he's the same. I don't think he's shit without those PEDs. So once a cheater, always a cheater. Fuck you. Will Fuller's off my fucking list, but he's high up here on this list on here. Sammy Watkins. I mean, if you have to bring like veterans in, Deshaun Jackson, you know, a deep ball guy. You just lost Scatling, so it'll be interesting. But again, one name that I don't see on this list, as I am scrolling this list right now, yeah, it just ended for wide receivers. I do not see Antonio Brown. That blows my fucking mind. Antonio Brown's not on this list. I don't know why, but Antonio Brown would be a huge pickup for the Green Bay Packers. Here's why I think so. Let me explain myself. Antonio Brown has his issues. Yes, we know that. He's got his off the field issues. He has his little antics. A little bit childish, maybe. I don't know the full stories for these things. What happened in Tampa, we all seen him walk off the field. Then he comes out and says something about an injury, and they were trying to force him to play through it, and he said, "No, I'm hurt." Then he came back on that statement. So I don't know what's going on. The only thing I do know is that we will probably never know the real truth about that. We'll just get his side. We'll get the Bucs side. Anyways, Antonio Brown comes with his issues. Why I think this would be a good move for not just the Packers, the Bears, which from a friend, I hear that he said he wouldn't mind playing for. This will be a huge move because Antonio Brown's real issue to me in Tampa was too many mouths to feed. Now, he was still getting fed, so that's a bad phrase to use, I guess. But it's just that Antonio Brown wants to be, in my opinion, Antonio Brown wants to be the man on the team. He wants to be the go-to guy. He wants to get all the targets. He doesn't want to share. He can maybe tolerate sharing for a little bit, and that's it, as we've seen in Tampa. But I think you go to a team like the Packers that has no weapons, and you got two back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers throwing to you. I think that's a good fit. I think you go to the Bears. The Bears are more better off all around. I think a little bit than the Packers now that the Packers lost a lot. But then again, there's problems there too. Being a Bears fan, yeah, I know. We don't have an O line. It's always been our issue. Justin Fields is not established. He's still a rookie quarterback. But just as I said, if you get mediocre receivers and you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers throwing to you, he can make mediocre receivers look good, if not great, like Tom Brady has in the past. I think it can go the opposite way around too for the Bears. If you have a mediocre, or I won't even say mediocre because he's only played 1 year, an in development quarterback as Justin Fields is, if you have him throwing to a great receiver as Antonio Brown, yes, Antonio Brown is still a great receiver. Look what he did with all the targets that he got in Tampa when he did get them. He went for over 100 yards most of the time, touchdown or multiple touchdowns. But if you have that happening, Antonio Brown can make you look great just as well. Why I think that the Packers would be a better fit for him is because you got Aaron Rodgers. You have a great quarterback and a great receiver. Spells out offensive troubles solved to me. And you have Aaron Rodgers, who in recent years has only had really Devontae Adams as a big name receiver. So he's already used to working with one receiver and then some, mediocre ones, or, just a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, not even a big name wide receiver 2. So I think Green Bay would be the better fit for Antonio Brown. I would love to see him come to the Bears. I'm a huge Antonio Brown fan as well, despite his antics and, off the field issues or whatever. The only thing that teams have to understand, which I think they already know, which is why his name's probably not on this list and why nobody's going after him or pursuing him, is one, you already know he wants to be the man. That's an ego issue, okay? And that's fine. With me personally, that's fine because we've seen what he did in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, he was setting records and then breaking those records. And Pittsburgh did what whoever signs Antonio Brown, if anybody does, has to do. They have to let Antonio Brown be Antonio Brown. What does that mean? Antonio Brown is not going to want to come to practice maybe sometimes. Maybe he's not going to want to come to meetings. Pittsburgh let him slide with that most of the time, and he was still performing on the field for them. As long as he shows up and shows out on the field on game day, that's what I care about. And he could win you a Super Bowl. Paired with the right person, he could win you a Super Bowl. So if Super Bowls is really what you're after, I think Antonio Brown is a valuable name to still keep out there because of his talents and because of his age. He's not that old. I believe he's early 30s. So still in his prime. Another thing that teams have to look out for with Antonio Brown is you already know he's going to want the money. Now, I doubt Antonio Brown is getting a huge contract from anybody. He's not even getting multiple years because of his antics. I think that screams to teams like don't touch him. But desperate times call for desperate measures. The Packers are in desperate times because of what's going on. The Bears have been in desperate times, okay? We signed Andy Dalton to a 1-year, $10 million deal last year. $10 million. Desperate times. So Antonio Brown could be that, but he's definitely not going to get a multi-year deal, but you will have to pay him probably a bit for a 1-year deal. But I don't think it's going to be no max 1 year or anything like that. I think you could still get him for a pretty decent price point if you could spend the money. And I think he will be well worth it if you put some stipulations in there, kind of like prove to play, but at the same time not like that because that was his issue in Tampa. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with Antonio Brown? If there's one thing that you know about Antonio Brown, it's that he's unpredictable. So I'm just throwing that name out there because I think that'll be a good fit for some teams, and he could really turn some teams around, especially in the situations that they're in now with this free agency going on at this time. Other than that, there's been a rumor going around that I have heard that I honestly, now that this trade with Kansas City went down and Tyreek Hill is on the Dolphins, I hope it comes true. And that's Tom Brady possibly being traded to the Miami Dolphins. That'd be fucking insane. That would be great. I would love that. I think I'll take that thought back in my head. Do I think that means Super Bowl ring for them? No, I don't. Maybe not year one. That's going to be a pretty good offense. I just don't know how Miami has done on defense. I haven't paid attention, to be honest with you. And if the defense is complete shit, that is a big red flag for me, because if we look at the Bucks, the first year that Tom Brady was with the Bucks, they won the Super Bowl, but also look what happened. They had a solid defense, and that defense got to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And even though he was throwing up dimes, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, that was the difference maker. If they don't pressure Patrick Mahomes, I think they lose. So, would I like to see Tom Brady go to the Dolphins? Yes, because the Bucks, him being with the Bucks now, coming out of retirement, I don't see anything really productive happening from there, because you have basically the same team, unless they go sign some, maybe some other big names or something, because Antonio Brown's off the list. Unless they get like Odell Beckham Jr., who's also maybe a possible red flag because the whole knee thing. I've heard Tom Brady kind of trying to recruit Julio Jones, which would be awesome, but like I said, injury prone. But the Bucks would be a good fit for Julio Jones. Why do I say that? Because Julio Jones may be injury prone, but they have the backups. They have the reserves there. They still have Mike Evans. They still have Chris Godwin. And Rob Gronkowski is still a free agent as of right now. So he's not back with the Bucks, but I'm sure if Tom Brady is settled in and locked in on the Bucks, I'm sure that Rob Gronkowski is going to come back to the Bucks. They're going to have basically the same squad. The only issue with that is the running back situation. You just lost Ronald Jones Jr., so I don't know what's going on with that. The running back situation was pretty key to the Bucks when they needed it. Playoff Lenny showed up. So if you plan on going deep in the playoffs, I mean, there's Melvin Gordon out there at running back, or maybe you can make a trade or something happen. But that defense is still not the same either. So I would like to see Tom Brady go to another team. Obviously the Bears, fuck yeah, but he's never going to come up here and play. The team's not established at this point in his career. He's looking for an established team to win Super Bowls with. I doubt he's just sticking around for the money. He's looking to get on stacked teams and make them even more stacked through himself and through his recruiting, antics. But it's going to be interesting these next few weeks to see how everything plays out. There are a decent amount of names. There's more than a handful of names on offense and defense right now, still available in free agency, and the signings and trades have already been fucking crazy. It's really playing out to look like this upcoming NFL season is going to be nuts. I think the playoff picture is going to be nuts. And I thought the playoff picture last year was nuts, especially with the Bengals doing what they did. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So with that, I'm going to wrap this podcast up. Again, I want to thank you guys for watching. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Steve, can't wait to have you back, bro. Talk my shit to you about the Packers. If you're watching this, the Packers are fucking up, bro. They are fucking up. But then again, watch. A week, 2 weeks go by, and I'll be eating my words because they sign a bunch of receivers or something like that. That's how this stuff goes. All right, guys. I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. As always, stay tuned for the next one. Peace. Oh, get out of this tight squeeze.